Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. We will cover issues you need to consider prior to and during each developmental special duty assignment cycle, and we will touch on some general basic DSD eligibility requirements. I am Master Sergeant Brandy Haynes, manager of the AFPC DSD office.
And I am Tech Sergeant Faber Donnelly, assignment NCO, and we will be your briefers today.
Today's briefing has been prepared for active duty airmen in the rank of Staff Sergeant through Master Sergeant. If you have any questions during the briefing, please make note of them, and we will take time at the end of the session to answer as many as possible, both on Facebook and on the webcast.
Our goal is to provide you with information on how the DSD program works during each cycle. Today, we will discuss the DSD AFSCs, the established battle rhythm, yearly requirements, DSD basic eligibility requirements, commander's responsibility, airman's responsibility, assignment selection. We will also cover reasons why a member didn't get selected, changes to the local hire process, and AFSCs affected and changes to the First Sergeant Assignment Program. At the end of the briefing, we will end with questions and answers.
While considering the developmental special duty program and assignment process, you must keep in mind why and how assignments are selected for each DSD AFSC. Overall, there are 9 AFSCs that have been identified as DSD and special duty identifiers, also SDIs. The AFSCs highlighted on the slide in red are local hire AFSCs, meaning these will be hired at the wing level year-round out of the normal DSD cycle, with the exception of our PME NCO instructors, who will also be hired in the normal DSD cycle. We will discuss local hires later on in the briefing. Local hires are Career Assistance Advisors, Airmen and Family Readiness NCOs, Airmen Dorm Leaders, and ALS PME instructors. The AFSCs in black will be filled in the spring and fall cycles by PCS assignments. These are military training instructors, military training leaders, U.S. Air Force Academy MTLs, Air Force Honor Guard, recruiter duty, and NCOA instructors.
This slide shows an example of the DSD assignment cycle schedule. There are 2 cycles per year, spring and fall, and there are 4 phases in each cycle. These phases are career field manager releases, the nomination process, DSD match and selection, and closing the cycle, which includes backfilling vacancies due to candidates that become disqualified for DSD assignments. The assignment team recently closed out the spring 2019 cycle, and we are currently in the fall 2019 cycle. Typical cycles are 6 months, and assignment managers, we do our best to abide by these schedules, but due to system availability, prioritization, and emergency needs of the Air Force, dates are subject to change without notification. As of 2 August, all eligible nomination rosters were sent to the MatchComs for initial review. After the MatchCom review, all eligible candidates' names will be forwarded to their respective base wing command chief to start the nomination process. For the fall 2019 cycle, report no later than dates will be June 2020 through September 2020.
I just want to clarify, it's not as of 2 August. We actually sent it out on 2 October. Next, I'm going to cover DSD basic eligibility requirements that are required in order to be nominated for DSD. Please keep in mind, these are the basics for nomination purposes only. Being nominated for DSD does not mean that you have been selected. If selected for DSD after meeting basic requirements, you will be required to complete any and all SPCAT requirements for the AFSC selected. If you cannot meet SPCAT requirements, you will be removed from the DSD selection process. Our team does an initial pre-screen for eligibility based on the following criteria to determine if your name will be sent forward to your wing command chief and units to start the nomination process. First, you must be in the rank of Staff Sergeant through Master Sergeant to be considered. Second, you cannot be HYT restricted from getting the 36 to 48 months required retainability for the DSD tour. You must not have an assignment already on file unless you are serving in a short tour location with an approved follow-on. In this case, you can request to withdraw your follow-on if it does not create a mission-impacting hardship, which will be determined by your primary AFSC assignment NCO. We also screen your last 3 EPRs and look at disciplinary actions. The last 3 EPRs must be all 5s under the old evaluation system or ACLC under the current system. As you can see on the slide, no Article 15s or UIFs within the last 3 years is authorized, and you cannot have a record of conviction by court-martial ever. Please keep in mind that each DSD AFSC has specific SPCAT requirements. For example, as you can see for recruiter duty, disciplinary actions are more stringent than the basic DSD eligibility requirements. These are just a few things to keep in mind.
Now that we have covered the basic eligibility requirements, I'm going to briefly cover the commander's nomination responsibilities. During each cycle, the commander is given a 30-day nomination window. The commanders and immediate leadership must ensure that you also meet criteria for DSD. Our office has created tools to assist with the DSD nomination. The DSD matrix can be utilized by you and your leadership to determine where our team is in the match process. The DSD matrix is updated weekly by our team. Although the matrix may show we have matched for an AFSC, this does not mean all assignments have been loaded or notifications have been sent to each individual from the appropriate screening teams. Each step in the selection process is screened and can take weeks for a final assignment loads. We also send each MatchCom an initial eligibility roster for each wing of members who meet basic eligibility requirements. This is used by the units to assist in the nomination process. Some unit commanders may nominate you for 2 vectors. However, AFPC only requires 1. Each MatchCom has a slightly different process, and they may also require 2 vectors. Please ensure you are communicating with your leadership and asking questions. If you are currently serving in a DSD assignment, you are not eligible to be nominated for a subsequent DSD assignment. Policy requires each member to return back to their primary AFSC for at least 3 years before nominated for another special duty assignment. Also, please keep in mind, if you are nominated and cannot fulfill a DSD assignment based on hardship, the wing commanders are the approving authority to remove candidates that are no longer qualified for DSD or present a unique hardship through the cycle, as this is a nominative process, not a volunteer process. Wing commander removal pertains to the nomination process only. Once a member has been selected and put on official assignment, the only approval authority to cancel an assignment is the assignment OPR or the assignment team NCO.
Moving on to Airmen's responsibility. Again, I'm going to foot stomp that communication with your leadership is key. If you are eligible to be considered for DSD, it is your responsibility to inform your leadership of such desire to be nominated. The goal is to get the right people for these key developmental special duties that will lead and mentor our future airmen. Please ensure to make sure all of your records are up to date. If you know you are not currently eligible for consideration, but will soon be, please inform your leadership of upcoming eligibility changes. For example, if your bottom EPR is a 4, but you know that the next EPR is closing out as an AC or LC, which will make you eligible, talk to your leadership as they still have the option to nominate you, even though you weren't eligible initially. If you are tentatively selected for a DSD assignment, you will be required to complete all SPCAT requirements within 15 calendar days of notification. Please note that failure to complete SPCAT requirements will result in MAJCOM and wing leadership involvement. If you are selected, you will either receive an official assignment notification or a selection email from the applicable AFSC screening team. For recruiters, MTIs, and MTLs, your assignments will not be loaded until you complete all SPCAT requirements. If you are nominated and meet all requirements, you will be vulnerable for DSD until the cycle officially closes. If you are not selected for your first vector, it is possible to be selected for your second vector. However, our team matches all first vectors first. If we do not meet all of our requirements with first vectors, we move to second vectors. Being nominated will not make you ineligible for applying for other volunteer programs, such as BOPs, the Overseas Assignment Cycles, etc., unless you are officially selected for DSD.
Once our team completes the nomination portion of the cycle, we move into the assignment selection process. You must be nominated by your commander, and you must have a career field manager release from your primary AFSC. Assignment selections are matched in accordance with AFI 36-2110, Table 6.11. If you do not meet selection criteria in accordance with AFI 36-2110, such as time on station requirements, our office will complete a required time on station waiver, as we can waive up to 24 months for a PCS assignment, and all waivers must be submitted by your leadership during the nomination portion of the cycle. Please keep in mind, a waiver requirement will not make you ineligible in most cases, but it may require higher level authority approval from the career field manager. We receive quite a few joint spouse assignment questions during the cycle. Our team works directly with the assignment functional prior to DSD selections for joint spouse coordination. If your joint spouse intent code does not match if your joint spouse code does not match or one spouse has a joint spouse intent code of H, the joint spouse assignment will not be considered. Intent code A should be updated for all couples who desire assignment coordination for all CONUS assignments and all overseas assignments. Intent code B should be updated for couples who desire assignment consideration for all CONUS assignments and only overseas accompanied tour locations. Intent code H should only be updated if you no longer desire to be assigned with your military spouse based on situations. Please, again, ensure that your records are updated to reflect accurate information. Another example is if you are pending reenlistment and your records flips to record status 20, to us it looks like you're separating and you won't be considered for DSD. I briefly spoke on this earlier, but I will clarify further. For MTLs, MTIs, and recruiters, a welcome package is sent from the representative screening team. This serves as a tentative assignment notification. Again, you will not be placed in assignment until after your SPCAT application has been approved. All others are notified via virtual MPF or your unit commander. Once you are selected, you are required to get at least 24 months of retainability in order to PCS in accordance with the JFTR regulation. If you have 24 months but decline to get retainability for DSD tour in accordance with the stabilized tour guide, this will not exclude you or cancel your DSD assignment, as you are only required to have 24 months to PCS. If you have less than 24 months and decline to get retainability once you have an official assignment on file, you will be required to sign the Air Force Form 964.
During and after each cycle, our office receives hundreds of inquiries from airmen as to why they weren't selected for DSD. There are many factors considered when we are reviewing each individual record. Let's briefly discuss the number nominated versus requirements and vacancies each cycle. Each cycle, there are approximately 25 to 30,000 eligible airmen for DSD, and we only fill approximately 800 to 1,000 requirements each cycle. This is one of the #1 reasons for non-selection. Next, the disqualification rate is higher in some AFSCs, and that is the reason our office will keep a running roster in order to meet requirements to fill vacancies for each AFSC. Other reasons for non-selection include not having a career field manager release. For example, if the personnel career field manager released 20 staff sergeants for DSD, but 500 staff sergeant personnel were nominated Air Force wide, then your chances are lower of being selected for one of your vectors. Again, if you are HYT restricted from meeting the 3 to 4 year tour in accordance with the stabilized tour guide, then you will not be considered. Also, if you have a selective reenlistment bonus and have not completed at least 50% of your enlistment, you are now ineligible, and this is not waiverable. There is also a potential for non-selection if your MAGCOMs do not submit the appropriate waivers. For instance, if you do have an SRB waiver and you have met the 50% of your enlistment, your MAGCOMs are responsible for submitting your all waivers in accordance with the PSDG during the nomination process. And again, for additional submissions, if you do require a waiver that makes you ineligible, we will consider each waiver on a case-by-case basis. Okay, now that we have covered some of the basics of the DSD program, I would like to discuss some great things our team is doing and some changes in the DSD program. Over the past year, we have opened up MTI opportunities for staff sergeants. We have worked with policy to align the physical fitness scores to the Air Force standards of 75% versus the previous 80%. And to provide better transparency to the field, we now release and publish the career field manager quota numbers. We put this out on the MyPERS website, which we'll get out there here probably in the next couple days. Okay. This helps leadership determine who is eligible to be nominated up front, as opposed to nominating airmen that will not be released from their primary AFSC. In addition, the First Sergeant Functional here at AFPC has worked diligently to better streamline the First Sergeant program, which has been completely removed from the DSD program. And for additional information and questions, he has his own First Sergeant page you can find on the MyPERS link under Enlisted Assignments under the First Sergeant program process. To clarify, effective 21 August 2019, Career Assistance Advisors, Airmen and Family Readiness, Airmen Dorm Leaders, and ALS PME instructors moved under the local hire process. This was a decision to better assist the field in getting the right person for the right position. Again, local hire positions will still need a career field manager release, but these positions are managed by the owning wing command chief and will still need to be coordinated through the DSD office for final approval. Our goal is to provide you, our customers, with the most up-to-date information as we work through each cycle. With that being said, here are a few highlights on what we are doing for you. In the past 2 cycles, we have specifically targeted every eligible candidate with a targeted message to let you know that you are a potential for DSD. This was created to give you the opportunity to talk to your leadership and research future goals and opportunities. Additionally, our office will send a targeted message to every candidate that is nominated by his or her leadership. Please remember, this is just the nomination process. This does not guarantee an assignment or a selection. Lastly, once all selections have been made, all candidates nominated for DSD will receive a cycle closure targeted message. If you have not been put on official assignment and have not been notified by the screening team of tentative selection, that means you are not selected for this cycle. And again, to just ensure you're making sure you're communicating at all levels with your leadership. That's one of the biggest complaints that we hear throughout each cycle, that, oh, I didn't know the process was going on. I didn't know the cycle was open. So again, just make sure communication is key at all levels. In closing, thanks for joining us for today's webcast. For assistance with the developmental special duty questions, please review the DSD PSG guide on the MyPERS webpage, or contact your local MPF career development team and or your local CSS. Shortly, our team will take a few minutes to answer any questions you may have. Please refrain from asking questions that pertain to a specific situation, as we don't have the capability to look at individual records right now. So as we said earlier, I'm Sergeant Haynes. I'll be answering questions for the Facebook Live, and Sergeant Donnelly will be answering questions on the webcast.
Thank you so much. Please type your questions in the chat area, and we'll do our best to answer them live today. Thank you.
Excuse me. Okay. Sergeant Lineberger, how much does the time on station requirement affect those who are selected? A person with 6 years versus a person with 8 years. Time on station, we will, for instance, all CONUS assignments require a 48-month time on station. So if you have 24 months time on station, we will waive the additional 24 months, but we don't go based on how long you've been on station, if that makes sense.
For Master Sergeant Raw, which DSD careers are we matching this cycle? You can go into MyPERS, and we'll have the match matrix. It should be updated within the week, and it'll highlight exactly which ranks and which career fields we're hiring for.
Okay, Sergeant Watson, when exactly will the time on station waivers be processed? During the nomination process or after selection? We will not, we have to have all of the waivers during the nomination process. We process everything up front. For instance, if you do require a time on station waiver, how do I put this during the nomination process? It depends on each individual record, just how much time on station needs to be waived, but we do need them during the nomination process. Once we start selection, if you require a waiver, we will no longer accept the package.
For the question, am I considered a first-time? I'm a first-time airman with 2 years left Would I have to re-enlist once I was selected for DSD or before to even be considered? This person is interested in recruiting. Recruiting is our only AFSC that you cannot be a first-term airman. If your records show that you're a first-term airman during our selection process, we are not going to look at you. So if you are interested in becoming a recruiter, make sure you are and you do your re-enlistment first, and then we'll look at you.
Okay, moving over to Facebook. Can you decline the opportunity of a DSD position if you are on the eligible list? Remember, this is a nominative program. Just because you're on the initial eligible list does not mean you're going to get nominated. For instance, if you know you have family situations, something's going on in your life that DSD would not be the right path for you at the time, then that's when you talk to your leadership and let them know that, you don't want to be sent forward for nomination.
Question we have, are you still eligible if you have a line number? We will look at positions at the rank that you are going into. So if you have a line number for tech sergeants, we're going to look at you for position, and you were nominated, we will look at you for positions that we have opening as a tech sergeant.
Okay, moving over to Facebook. What positions are hiring this cycle? Sergeant Donnelly answered that earlier. We will have the DSD match matrix updated shortly, and it will be out on MyPERS under the DSD link.
Sergeant Romero, what is the normal wait time for getting the eligibility letter to being notified of DSD selection? We have a couple different processes. Once we start our DSD cycle and we know who's eligible Air Force wide, then you'll get a MyPERS targeted message saying that you were eligible for DSD. Once we're done with our selections and we close the cycle, you'll be getting an email saying, a targeted message saying that the cycle has been closed. If you have not been notified that you were actually selected for a DSD position, then that means that's when you know that you haven't been selected. And if you were selected, you'll get an email from the appropriate screening team, or you'll have an assignment loaded.
Okay, moving to Facebook again. If I reenlisted with an SRB and have not completed 50% of the reenlistment, I am not eligible. That is correct. You are not eligible.
We talked about that.
Male-to-male question. If a spouse is under 3 years out of DSD, can both still apply and a waiver be done? This would be a case-by-case basis. Per our policy, you have to be back in your career field for 3 years. And it all depends on what position you guys were nominated for. So that would be a case-by-case.
Okay, moving to Facebook. Can someone with a run waiver but still can do the 2-kilometer walk be eligible for recruiter? Again, everything can, we process waivers for pretty much anything. This is going to be up to the career field manager for recruiter duty to determine if they will accept an individual that can't do the 1.5 mile run.
We got a question from Bradley Ford. If we don't get selected for the first vector, do our chances decrease for the second vector? Or do we have the same shot for the second vector as our first? When we do our hiring process, we hire all the first vectors in every AFSC we're hiring for. If we can't fill the requirements we need, then we'll look at your second vectors. I will say that if your second vector is MTI, MTL recruiting, you'll have a better chance than your second vector being Air Force Honor Guard or USAFA MTL. All
right, moving over to Facebook. The special duty pay changing. Our office hasn't received any information on that. There were changes with the first sergeant program, but I'm not going to elaborate on that as that program's moved out of DSD. But as of right now, we don't have any information on SDAP.
I can interject. We're doing a special duty pay webcast next Tuesday, 15 October. So you probably noticed the My Purse message was released this week. So special duty pay webcast next Tuesday, 15 October. Please join us.
We have a question on the webcast. Upon selection of DSD, does this automatically override any other assignment actions? Example, BOP. We work hand in hand with all the assignment functionals. So if you were nominated for DSD, it does not stop you from applying for BOP or Equal Plus Ed. However, if you are selected for DSD, we actually select you, it depends on, and you're selected for DSD first, then that will override if you're somebody else is looking at you for EPA. If you are selected for an Equal Plus Ed first, and then we select you under DSD, we'll work hand in hand to see what's best needs for the Air Force and the member.
All right, moving over to Facebook. What is the process once someone was selected? Well, each AFSC has different criteria. Once our team selects an individual, for example, MTI, MTL recruiter, we simply give your names to the appropriate screening teams. Once the screening teams do their process, and again, it could take weeks because we're given thousands of names, if they find that you are eligible or tentatively eligible for one of those AFSCs, you're going to get an email notification of all the required items that need to be completed in order to be put on assignment. For all others, such as, say, Air Force Honor Guard, 8T PME instructors, our office does line-by-line selection for each vacancy. Once selected for those, our office will actually load the assignment and schedule the appropriate classes required.
All right, question from Master Sergeant Drake. What is the deadline for nominations and when will members be notified? So we have given a suspense to the match comms of 1 November to provide all nominees. Once we get that, we will do one more scrub to make sure everybody's eligible, and then we'll start our selection process. Selection process can vary from the time frame. So I would say it's anywhere between, once we get those names back, it could be anywhere between a week to a month or so before we're finished with selections and you guys get notified. And again, once we select people, for example, for MTI, MTL recruiting, we give those names to the screening team, and then the screening team will reach out to you. So that is some additional time that's added on.
Chief Hensley, you asked, am I correct by communicating to my people that the next First Sergeant look will not be until April 2020 due to First Sergeant no longer being part of the DSD process? Currently, Master Sergeant Tabor is in his process for this October cycle. I can't answer specifically on the next cycle for him, but we can, if you want to send our office an email, I can get you his contact information. Okay, we got a question. I'm a reservist who came back to active duty last year. My reserve unit messed up my dates on my EPR. For example, one EPR covered 2+ years. Will this affect my application for a DSD assignment? This is a question that needs to be sent directly to our office. So if you could shoot us an email, you can actually obtain our email address from the MPS. or your CSS should have that as well. Oh, okay. And we also have our org box on the screen. Okay.
Sergeant Clay, how do critically manned AFSCs affect DSD selection? If you're in a critically manned AFSC, your CFM may not give you a career field release. I would go into my PERS and look at, we post what quotas how many releases we have for each AFSC, and see if your AFSC has a few releases, and then go from there. Tech Sergeant Hallman, I left technical training instructor duty 2 years ago. Am I eligible to apply for DSD since I was technically still career field? Yes. Of course, again, remember this is a nominative process, not a volunteer process. So you are eligible to talk to your leadership and ask them to nominate you for DSD. And you will be, if they nominate you, yes, you are eligible to be considered.
Okay, moving to Facebook. Once someone receives an assignment but says tentative, what does that mean? Okay, you are not officially put on assignment until you get the virtual MPF notification or you're notified by your commander, but you are tentatively selected once you get sent forward to the screening team. The screening teams can't tell you that you've been officially notified of assignment because they don't know if you're going to pass the SPCAT requirements.
I have a question. If the person's line number is to Master Sergeant projected so on February, March, will only be looked at for Tech Sergeant positions? No. As soon as you have a line number, you were nominated, we'll look at you for the position, for the rank that you are projected to put on.
Okay, Facebook. Are members considered for local hire positions if located at the same base duty location but don't belong to the same MAGCOM? Yes. We have a process for that. It's actually in our local hire PSDG guide that can be found out on my PERS under the assignments link, and it's going to be under the DSD process tab.
Tech Sergeant Lineberger, you can be vectored for DSD by talking to your leadership. It's going to be your leadership working with your wing leadership and letting them know and actually vectoring you, and that will be sent up to the MAGCOM, and MAGCOM will send it to us.
Okay, Facebook. For people who got nominated, how soon can we find out if we got selected for DSD? You're going to find out if you got selected for DSD when you receive either an official assignment notification or once you receive that email from the applicable screening team. However, keep in mind, we try to maintain set deadlines during each phase of the process. However, again, due to system unavailability, just different things within the program, we can't tell you exactly when you're going to be notified if you are selected. Again, with Facebook, do CFMs set release quotas prior to the nomination process? Yes, prior to each cycle beginning, we work up front with the CFMs to get the quotas before we even pull the eligibility roster. Right now, our current process is if we won't even pull an AFSC into the eligibility roster if the CFM has not released any quotas for that cycle. Okay, again, please only ask questions that pertain to the DSD program.
Tech Sergeant Lineberger, how do we select people? Once we get all the vectors from the MAGCOM, we'll take a look at everybody and we'll start selecting per AFSC, and we'll go by assignment rules per AFI 21-10. We'll look at time on station, anybody coming from overseas first. Then we'll look at anybody who has a code 50 expiring. and then time on station.
Want to thank everybody for joining us today. We'll just stay on for another minute. Last call for questions. Thank you for joining us. Last call for questions.
Okay, Facebook. Amber Gonzalez. When you consider nominating personnel who are married to another military member that is serving in a dependent restricted tour, which assignment takes priority for the joint spouse? Again, this is a question that we would answer on the side. We have to look at records. There's things that we do behind the scenes. We work with the sister services, POCs, on joint spouse assignments. So it just depends. It's on a case-by-case basis.
Alrighty, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us. We're going to end our webcast now. Thank you.